how to get humbled. Like, what are the processes of that? And I know in your own unique story.
Yeah, honestly, like the origin story of being humbled was living in Germany for a year as an 18-year-old. And I'm a, fairly social person. I could sit at any lunch table and, entertain. To go to Germany and just be a novelty to everybody. I could understand German, but there's a difference between understanding and getting through the day and like expressing yourself. I really love the phrase, restriction creates freedom. It's like a good game, right? It has rules that everyone knows, and it creates a sort of restriction and boundary, but through that, you're allowed to play. Similarly, the restriction of not being able to express myself vocally, it forced me to create, but it also forced me to listen. So ultimately, all of this idea is learning how to learn. That's my original premise being in Germany. I'm like, shit, I need to not only learn German, I need to learn in German. And so therefore I should probably learn how to learn so that I'm best prepared. The best learning practices, like we learn best in community, outside, in nature, using both sides of our brain. The learning journey led me deeper into the body, led me into nature, teaching yoga. And right, yoga is connecting, it's the yoking of the mind into the body. And when we get into the body, we're able to physically exhaust and anchor this mind into the body, which is now a frontier exploration really of the body, which is fascia.
So what is fascia if you were to define it in one sentence?
Essentially, it's...
Yeah, so Key, I'm so humble, dude. I'm just so humble. That's one thing, my best quality ever. All jokes aside, that's a funny way to open up, because this whole topic, we just manifested this idea of humble living and what exactly is humble. Tell us about the etymology of humble. You were just going into that a little bit, right? What humble is.
Yeah, humble, it has the same root as humus, or the humus of the earth,
oh,
right?
Wow.
Which is like earth matter. And then it also is the root of humor as well. So now you're really cooking with gas once you start to get to the core of these really essential values of being human, which is being humble, which is exercising humor. You're right to be humorous. You're right to experience laughter and joy, and really staying close to the ground, staying close to the earth. And similarly, it actually reminds me of the root word of health is wholeness, right? And holy health, and holistic and all that is also the same. So
yeah.
What is it to be holy? What is it to be healthy? It's really to be whole, to feel not necessarily complete, but in alignment.
Yeah.
So I really get fascinated with etymology, because it starts to, I don't know, we use these words so often, people tell us what words mean, and we use them without thinking, and then all of a sudden you take a step back, and you're like, oh, what does it mean to be healthy? Not just for me, but where do the roots of those words come from?
Yeah, I love this topic. And one thing that we were discussing a little bit of is this idea of how to get humbled. What are the processes of that? And I know in your own unique story, you've done a lot of traveling recently, and you've been humbled from some personal experiences recently, right? Tell us a little bit more about that and how you got more into this earthen energy of groundedness through the humbling in your life.
Yeah, honestly, the original origin story of being humbled was living in Germany for a year as an 18-year-old. Turned 18, graduated high school, left for Germany, and was just
Did you know any prior German before that?
I mean, I knew some in high school, but you only know
Yeah.
It's in high school, you learn it casual, you pass a test, you're not
immersed in the experience.
Yeah, you're not being pressured to feel your feelings in German and defend yourself or learn subjects in German. And I'm a, fairly social person. So coming from high school, just I could sit at any lunch table and, entertain or just talk about things. And so to go to Germany and just be a novelty to everybody, to be the American exchange student who, I could understand German, but there's a difference between understanding and getting through the day and expressing yourself, being a personality.
It's less robotic. It's more of the true human energy.
Yeah, exactly. And just real time, no one's slowing down to wait for you to catch up.
Right.
People are talking, they're going,
yeah.
they're learning. And so that was the original origin of picking up a musical instrument to express myself, because I was, essentially didn't really speak English in a regular way for a year, which I've since now, and even more recently, really believe that it should not just be a luxury, it should be a requirement for someone to live in a country and in a community where they do not speak English.
Dude, I love this. For me, it's been extremely humbling the past year. Moving to Mexico in April of 2024 and being there the past year, like very much like that. Not as immersive in that regard, where you're literally like forced completely. But yeah, just the context of being around, the shops and markets and everything, just communicating with people in Spanish has been an extremely humbling experience as well. It makes me realize I actually don't know everything, and that's where the humbling comes in, because I'm really a wordsmith when it comes to the English language, but when I switch that into something like Spanish, it's totally different. So you went to, when you were 18, you mentioned you've been big into music for a while. We've been jamming out here at Bioculture, these retreats, like, oh, you and I both have been really hitting it. I've been learning a lot from you in that regard. So yeah, tell us about your music and creativity as well, and just like the humbling nature of that, because there's a lot of humbling when it comes to music, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, again, it's part of why I love bioculture, is because it's more than learning one specific thing. It's about actually creating a culture in which we can all learn and grow and learn lots of different things. And so coming from what I believe is often a monoculture of sort of like dominant, nondescript, cookie cutter, like anytown USA, you drive through the highway and it's just like, okay, McDonald's, like
come and goes everywhere, the same kind
totally,
of
So that I would say, at a macro level, the culture is very sterile and homogenous. Certainly there's pockets of beauty and awesome things happening everywhere, including the US. But yeah, music wasn't a part of my life as like a thing that people played. It was definitely like I listened to music. Whereas like in Germany, everybody learned music was a mandatory class. And so even that, not just playing an instrument, but learning about music history and like the context of music and its role in society. And I was like, we were learning about Pink Floyd in high school in Germany.
Wow, that's cool.
And I'm like, wow, is this real?
Yeah, right? That's an anomaly in the
hippie high
US.
school self was like so happy with that. But yeah, especially being humbled with the English language, like I didn't have a culture beforehand of writing, of like journaling, of self-expression, like poetry. And so when I was forced to bottle up all my feelings and thoughts of English, in my everyday life, in a beautiful way, was forced to write. And I started writing songs, poetry, I had a guitar. It was natural. It was almost, I really love the phrase, restriction creates freedom. It's like a good game, right? It has rules that everyone knows, and it creates a sort of restriction and boundary, but through that, you're allowed to play. And you're allowed to express yourself. So similarly, the restriction of not being able to express myself vocally to my normal homies of high school, and not think twice about what I say, and it forced me to create, but it also forced me to listen. Speaking of being humble, beyond that, it forced me to choose my own words wisely, because I knew that each word meant something. But I really realized when I came back to America, like listening to just my old paradigm with a new brain, with a new mind, it was hard for me to assimilate, because there was a lot of wasted words like, oh, fuck this, fuck that. Oh, dude, I can't believe this fucking guy was like, dude, shit, man, I can't believe. And I'm like, my brain is like, what did you just say?
It's so normalized in our society, but when you take the step out of the box and go back in the box, you can see all that, right?
Yeah, and I just feel like people would choose their words a lot more wisely if they realized that each word they say has power, in that sense played into like, what I believe from different origins of like the law of attraction or Joe Dispenza, just that like, words are magic spells, hence spelling.
Yeah, abracadabra, right?
Yeah, abracadabra. What you speak is what you see, and what you create. And, of course, I get whimsical with my words and fleeting and careless, because we are all here to forget and to remember over and over again. But I feel like as an 18-year-old, it just fundamentally changed my worldview, and I could never go back to being the same, even if I was with the same people and with the same patterns and habits. And honestly, I feel like that's just critical, like, you know, kind of bringing it back to the now is just, you know, I was in my bubble, like working from home, like working on the computer from home, working at home, building, doing things, and being in winter where everyone's insular and not sun maxing.
Yeah, right.
The sun is at whatever the opposite
indoor artificial light all the time. Yeah.
So coming here and being exposed to, I mean, I've spoke more German in the past 6 weeks since I've been in Costa Rica than I had in the previous probably 5 years
So
in America.
interesting. Yeah.
And then obviously the exposure to Spanish, and I was living with some Italians for a week at the Primal House. Shout out Paul and Laura.
Yeah.
But yeah, this exposure to new ideas and new language and this co-creative nature is really what drew me to bioculture and drew me and has kept me in this country. And because I've changed my flight a few times.
Yeah. Well, the cool part, what I love about you, Key, is how you're really centered on the open-mindedness to the world. And I think when you're in that constant activation of receiving, of like, I'm open to receive, it allows you to actually carve out the path without actually knowing what the path is, or like in particular, it does it for you. Like, God is going through you right now. It led you into this, you know, we're at this bioculture retreats now in Costa Rica, and like, it wasn't something that was necessarily thought about, but you were open to receiving, which allowed you to be in this seat right now. And we're here chatting and forging new friendships. And isn't that wild how the universe works like that, right? And we're just relaxing. Speaking of fascia, I know you're big. Tell us more about fascia. What is fascia? Like, you know, the act of like receiving can be done when we're not as tight and bound up, right? In many ways. So like, tell us about what is fascia, because I know we had a little this is a good little sequester into this.
Well, yeah, and I think it is like, you know, I don't know a lot about human design, but I'm a projector, and the idea behind a projector is to look for the invitations, and when you see a green light, go, right? Part of it is not just waiting for invitations, but making yourself invitable and being not only open to what's unfolding, but also to be, you know, speaking of being humble, like I have a lot of skills, like a lot of high level skills, technical skills, you know, license and body work, like a lot of different skills that I can easily kind of go down a few different roads, but I'm not too proud to like sweep the floors and wash the windows, to just like show up and be like, hey, what do you guys need? Oh, we need some video work? Okay, cool. Like, that's in my wheelhouse. Let's go. Like, oh, we need to make some food? Like, let's get in the kitchen. And, you know, so ultimately all of this idea is learning how to learn. That's my like original premise being in Germany. I'm like, shit, I need to not only learn German, I need to learn in German. And so therefore I should probably learn how to learn so that I'm best prepared. And in a way, the best learning practices, like we learn best in community. We learn best outside in nature using both sides of our brain. Hence music, why it's so good for us, because we're, you know, using the logistical timing and rhythm and chords and theory, but you're also like expressing and flowing and painting and all these things. And honestly, that just led me deep. The learning journey led me deeper into the body. It led me into nature, you know, teaching yoga, functional movement. And then ultimately, during COVID, we have a school near my hometown, or not my hometown, but where I live currently in Port Townsend, Washington. And I was like, you know, it'd be cool. What if I just spent the next 18 months every other weekend getting a license in body work? Because I'm pretty sure that I can tell people how to move, and I can tell people how to learn or what to think. But most people are disembodied, disassociated from their body. And yoga is connecting. It's the yoking of the mind into the body, right? Speaking of origins, yoga is yoke. That's all it is, just yoking the mind. The excuse is just to be better at meditating, really, in a lot of ways, but just to be a better human. And when we get into the body, we're able to physically exhaust and anchor this mind into the body, which again just led me through, which is now a frontier exploration really of the body, which is fascia. And fascia is the mycelium of the body, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating. There we go. I love that play on words right there.
And it's truly, you cannot not affect the fascia. And yet, even in my 18 months of bodywork training, they barely talked about the fascia.
It's so interesting.
Like, if I didn't have my
That's the core of it all.
Dude,
Yeah.
I mean, in Godspeed, they have their curriculum that's mandated by the state.
Yeah,
and they
then you
work
go
with
into the
that.
depths of Rockefeller and whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, it could probably intertwine to that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for my kinesiology teacher, who was like personally fascinated with fascia, she snuck us into the online access to the fascia
She
conference
put it in there a little
Germany.
bit, planting seeds.
Yeah, like I knew about it and loved it, but I was so grateful that she was personally interested in it, because when you think about it, fascia weaves, not only does it wrap every muscle fiber, it wraps every muscle bundle of fibers, and then it wraps every bundle of bundles.
So it goes from macro to micro in ways, right?
Exactly. So the fascia is really the intelligence that is guiding, and the muscle fiber is more the mechanical. So we know, and in bodywork you focus so much on the muscles, right? Even in fitness you focus on
All about the muscles.
it's all about the
Mitochondria of
muscles.
the muscles.
My biceps. I want to get my biceps, and it's like, yeah, but your biceps are woven and connected, and it's almost impossible to fully isolate them, because no matter what you'd be, flex your hands, it's going to go back.
And then when you do isolate it too much, that leads to imbalances in the body, tightening of I look at it like a piano almost, our body with all these different keys, and if one of them's off, dun, dun, ding, it just sounds off, right? It's like you want to have it to where it flows.
Yeah, and how many really fit, muscular people are actually very robotic in their movements because they only do single planes of movement.
Yeah, and it's so uncomfortable in the body. I've been there myself.
Yeah, they're
for
like,
years, dude.
they do
push
this.
pull legs every week, and just it's really bad, really bad.
And they can't flow because they don't have those in-between muscles that have intelligence that are, right? I was, Dakota was reiterating this, but just the fact that our left hand is connected to our right foot.
Right. That's what I think about. I was like, if I itch my ear, how does that affect my toenail or my toe, my pinky toe? Like that. So what is fascia if you were to define it in one sentence? Because I think we got this idea of it, these concepts intertwining into it.
Fascia, man, it is difficult to define because it is so all-pervading. But essentially, it's I would say it's a connective tissue that has sensory neurons built into it. And it weaves not only around every muscle fiber, but it actually, if you think about it, all of your blood vessels, all of your lymph, all of your nervous tissue has to innervate, has to be woven through the fascia, which is why
freaking connected.
Which is why you can't get around it.
Yeah.
So you literally cannot avoid it. Anatomists used to do cadavers, right? And when they're studying the body, they're like, okay, let's get rid of all this junk in the way of the muscles, all this junk in the way of the organs,
right?
To see what is obviously very separate, like your liver or your bicep or your bones or anything. But meanwhile, they're peeling back all of this intelligent mycelium, the fuzz, right? The white just junk.
Yeah.
So it's only been in recent years that they're even studying it.
Yeah, it's actually very recent, right?
So
isn't it pretty much just water? It's just microcrystalline water.
Yeah. Oh, so another way to describe it is it's a liquid crystal.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's literally crystals.
Yeah. So it has tensegrity in that you cannot it holds itself together and is stronger than steel.
But it's like bamboo in ways too, where it can stretch and pull.
Yeah. So but
a spider web maybe that's real buoyant in a way,
Yeah, exactly. So it has its tensegrity, tension with integrity. Tensegrity is a lovely word. But then, right, it's so strong, it can't barely be broken with all the force. But then if I slide my hand through it, it just melts.
So cool.
It just moves and adapts.
Yeah.
So what is that? It's piezoelectric, which means that it's essentially vibrating with electricity and is very touch sensitive too. So it's really this electromagnetic grid in our body, and 80% of our sensory neurons are embedded into it. So if anything, the fascia might be the most important thing, secondary to maybe the heart or the brain, but once you go down the rabbit hole, you realize that they're all connected.
Super intelligent.
The heart is speaking to the fascia. Maybe it's just an extension. Maybe the fascia is just an extension of that, Maybe the brain is just an extension of the heart. We have neurons in our gut. We have neurons in our heart. We have neurons in our head.
Yeah,
but we also have neurons. We are just
all throughout our body.
No wonder we're so neurotic.
Yeah, right. Everyone today. I love these topics. So we went from like talking about humble living, keeping an open mind, travel, experiencing new things. I love how you intertwine your story with, your German experience, everything also ranging from the music. We talk about fashion and how that all intersects in this. What are some key components that people can take advantage of, following up with all these different topics? What are some things that we can flow to people to give them some good motivation going forward? What comes to mind as we finalize this beautiful discussion?
Yeah, one thing that I've really thought of as like a headline statement is that health does not need to be hard. And in fact, it really shouldn't be. It should, and it doesn't mean that it's easy, right? Like higher up wellness, he's always like, it's simple, it isn't easy, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
And it's like, but surely it must be more complicated. Like our brains, they're trained to solve problems, but they're also trained to find problems where there is none. And so I think that's ultimately, my company for a long time is Elements in Body. That's like my personal, because it's about becoming the avatar, the master of all the elements within one body, within one lifetime. And that's a slow process, and sometimes it's unpredictable. You can't control the variables, but ultimately, like, it's very simple. It's more about being healthy and whole is more about taking things out.
Elimination, for sure.
Elimination diet before
any integration, any addition. Yeah,
exactly. Because if you don't have a baseline, of being in a parasympathetic state, ultimately, stress has a negative connotation.
Right.
Like, you're stressed.
No stress. Get rid of all stress.
Yeah, and that's not the point, right? It's the chronic sympathetic state that we are in, the chronic stress that we never fully relax. And part of that is because we don't actually experience true acute physical stress. Like that's why cold plunging is such, the rave, because it's giving people that experience of
direct deposit of it.
Directly to source of acute stress. Like you can't.
It's no 3 to 5 day transfer waiting period.
No,
right? Yeah.
It's I might die right now, so I need to erase the mind, erase the blood flow to my limbs. And
I feel the same with rapé or something like that too. It shoots it up in ways. There's many things like a workout quickly, sprinting while all these 100%. Things are very acute. You're saying. Yeah. I guess what's your point with that though? Just the acute versus chronic.
That exposure to acute stress is extremely good for us.
Yeah.
And it's the exposure to the extreme stress that actually allows us to relax more fully. And similarly, like in body work, there's something called muscular energy stretching, right? Or muscular energy technique. And it's the idea is that when I flex, I actually am more able to relax because I have things that protect me from, hurting my joints by relaxing too much or going into too deep of a stretch. But when you just engage that muscle a little bit, it sort of forgets that it's supposed to stop you.
That's wild. Yeah.
So
the training, I've experienced that.
So yeah, that's oftentimes when you good body work, they'll have you push into them a little bit. They'll be like, okay, resist me for 3, 2, 1, and then boom, all of a sudden you're open. And you're and again, it's just everything works in that opposite pattern. Everything is patterns. Everything is a metaphor for these elements that are not only out in the world, but that archetypally exists in our psyche and in our culture, in our traditions. And I think we have a real opportunity. Out of all the things I do, one of the big things that I put on my headline is culture co-creator. Because more than any one thing, I'm here to create the culture that I want my grandkids to grow up in. And as much as I owe it to my ancestors to honor them and to uphold their traditions in some ways, you know, we're often like looking back at like, oh, that we must uphold our values and traditions from the past, and certainly there's truth to that. But I owe it just as much to my ancestors, or my previous ancestors, to make the best life possible for my future ancestors. And that's why I think a lot of us, and I imagine you've gone through this too, like struggling with not being back at home, like in the Midwest, like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Louis. You're like, dang, I could help my family, and everyone's aging, and they're, you know, they could pass away at any time. And it's like, I feel that, and I know that, and I want to visit and, you know, and enjoy and appreciate the time that I have left with them. And I just know that I'm being invited to something different. And that's what helps you deal with the grief that comes with being away from your family, right? It's like the grief doesn't lessen, but we become a bigger vessel to hold that.
Absolutely. I love this, Keyko. It's so good, man. And that's the one thing I'm noticing, like every one of these conversations we're having here in this sacred container. We're in Costa Rica right now for bioculture retreats, but this is what happens is we just explode our consciousness through all this intermingling and conversation, and like the music creation I was mentioning with Keyko throughout the nights with the handpan, and he's got his cajon, right? Cajon, not cajone. Cajon, that little box drum you sit on, right? Like these things are just so beautiful and fascinating, and I'm always learning something new at these retreats. And yeah, if you guys want to have a good time at the Jungle Beach, learn some amazing things about spirituality, your inner work, some things you brought up here, the fascia, humble living, explorative living. Come to one of these retreats. We'd love to hang out. Go to biocultureretreats.com. We'd love to connect. But that's all we got today, man. Thanks so much, Keyko. See you in another we'll get some food now. Let's go get some food. Later, Gators.